Most investors are chasing the flashiest AI stocks, while missing the companies selling the digital concrete, electrical plumbing, cooling systems, memory chips, data centers, and power gear that the entire AI boom depends on. If AI is the gold rush, these are the picks and shovels. Except instead of dusty miners, we have engineers yelling about megawatts, GPUs, and why one server rack now needs enough electricity to make your toaster feel insecure. Here is the critical point. AI does not run on vibes. It runs on chips, power, cooling, networking, storage, and massive data centers. And if you only look at the app layer, the chatbots, the image generators, and the companies putting AI powered on coffee makers, you may miss the infrastructure layer underneath it all. That layer may be where some of the most important long-term investment opportunities are hiding. If you are trying to build wealth over the next 10, 20, or 30 years, this matters, because every major technology boom creates two kinds of investors. One group buys the hype at the top, panics at the first ugly earnings report, and ends up stress-eating cereal at midnight while checking pre-market quotes. The other group studies the supply chain, understands the bottlenecks, and invests with a plan. AI infrastructure is not just about one company or one magic chip. It is about the entire physical foundation needed to train and run artificial intelligence. The world wants more AI, but more AI means more compute. More compute means more chips. More chips mean more memory, networking, power supplies, cooling, land, water planning, grid upgrades, and data center capacity. Basically, AI is the friend who says, "I only need one small favor," and then shows up with a moving truck. For a deeper dive related to AI investing, get my book, AI Meets Finance, Investing in the Age of Artificial Intelligence, available on Amazon. Link is in the description. Here is the plan. First, I will explain why AI infrastructure is the hidden engine behind the AI boom. Second, I will break down the major categories investors should understand, including chips, memory, networking, power, cooling, and data centers. Third, I will show you why some investors get this wrong. Finally, I will walk through a practical way to think about investing in this trend without turning your portfolio into a casino with a Wi-Fi password. Disclaimer: this content is for educational and entertainment purposes only, and is not financial, legal, or tax advice. Investing involves risk, including loss of principal. Consider your goals, time horizon, and risk tolerance before investing. Speak with a certified financial advisor to help you develop a customized plan. Now let's get back to learning. Let's make this visual. Imagine AI as a giant restaurant. The chatbot you use is the waiter. Very friendly, maybe a little too confident, occasionally brings you the wrong answer with perfect grammar. But behind that waiter is the kitchen. That kitchen has ovens, refrigerators, power lines, delivery trucks, ingredients, and people screaming, "Who took my HBM memory?" Industry research shows how big the kitchen is becoming. Yole Group projected the data center semiconductor market could grow from about $209 billion in 2024 to nearly $500 billion by 2030, driven by generative AI, high-performance computing, and hyperscaler demand. GPUs are a major piece of that, but the ecosystem also includes AI accelerators, custom chips, memory, networking, power electronics, and advanced packaging. Power is becoming one of the biggest bottlenecks. Yole Group also projected the data center power supply market could reach $14 billion by 2030, with high-power power supplies growing quickly as AI servers require more electricity. Translation? Your AI model may write a poem, but somewhere a power supply is doing leg day. But here is where most people get this wrong. They think AI infrastructure means buy the one famous chip company and go take a nap. That might work for some people, but it is not a complete strategy. The AI build-out is not one product. It is a supply chain, and supply chains create winners, losers, bottlenecks, and surprise opportunities. The real unlock is understanding the layers. Layer 1 is compute, the GPUs and custom AI chips. Layer 2 is memory, especially high bandwidth memory that feeds the chips fast enough so they are not sitting around like gym bros waiting for one squat rack. Layer 3 is networking, because thousands of chips need to talk to each other at ridiculous speeds. Layer 4 is data centers, the buildings, racks, real estate, and operations. Layer 5 is power and cooling, which is quickly becoming the no power, no AI reality check. Let's break down the major investment lanes. First, compute. This is the part everyone sees. GPUs and AI accelerators are the engines. They train large models and run inference, which is when the model responds to users. As AI models become more capable, demand for compute grows. But compute is also the most obvious part of the trade, which means valuations can get spicy. And by spicy, I mean, I need a glass of milk and a spreadsheet. Example chip ETFs include SMH, VanEck Semiconductor ETF, 5-year return, 395.01%. PSI, Invesco Semiconductors ETF, 5-year annualized return, 350.14%. SOXX, iShares Semiconductor ETF, 5-year annualized return, 318.14%. SOXQ, Invesco PHLX Semiconductor ETF, 5-year return, 343.77%. Second, memory. AI chips are powerful, but they need data fed to them constantly. High bandwidth memory, often called HBM, is critical because it helps reduce bottlenecks. Think of the GPU as a race car. HBM is the fuel line. If the fuel line is too small, the race car becomes a very expensive lawn ornament. Example ETF include DRAM, Round Hill Memory ETF. Third, networking. In AI data centers, chips do not work alone. They work in clusters. That means switches, interconnects, optical components, Ethernet, InfiniBand, and other networking technologies matter. If the chips cannot communicate quickly, the whole system slows down. It is like having a championship basketball team where every player is elite, but the court is covered in wet socks. Networking exposure ETF examples include SKYY, First Trust Cloud Computing ETF, TDIV, First Trust NASDAQ Technology Dividend Index Fund. Fourth, data centers and cloud computing. AI needs physical facilities. Hyperscalers, cloud providers, co-location companies, and infrastructure operators are racing to build capacity. But data centers are not just warehouses with blinking lights. They need land, permits, fiber connections, backup power, grid access, cooling systems, and long-term customers. The winners are often the companies that can deliver capacity quickly, reliably, and efficiently. Example data center ETFs include DTCR, Global X Data Center and Digital Infrastructure ETF, IDGT, iShares U.S. Digital Infrastructure and Real Estate ETF, RACK, VanEck Data Center Supply Chain ETF. Cloud computing ETF example include CLOU, Global X Cloud Computing ETF. Fifth, power and cooling. This is where the story gets serious. TrendForce reported that NVIDIA's GB200 NVL72 rack could require nearly 140 kilowatts, making liquid cooling necessary for the highest density systems. To put that in plain English, one rack can demand more power than a typical household uses many times over. That means utilities, electrical equipment providers, cooling companies, power management firms, and grid infrastructure providers may all become part of the AI investment story. Examples of power and cooling ETFs include AIPO, Defiance AI and Power Infrastructure ETF, ELFY, ALPS Electrification Infrastructure ETF, GRID, First Trust NASDAQ Clean Edge Smart Grid Infrastructure Index Fund. Now let's run a simple scenario. Suppose a company wants to build a new AI data center. The headline may say, "Company invests billions in AI." But where does that money go? It may go to GPUs, memory, networking hardware, servers, power supplies, cooling equipment, construction, electrical systems, real estate, and long-term power contracts. That is the picks and shovels idea. Instead of betting only on who builds the best AI app, investors can study who supplies the essential components that many AI companies need. The mistake is assuming every infrastructure company automatically wins. They do not. Some face cyclicality. Some have customer concentration. Some are priced for perfection. Some may lose margin as competition grows. Some may be great businesses, but terrible buys if investors overpay. Remember, a great company at an absurd price can still punch your portfolio in the mouth. Politely, of course, but still. Now, here is the part nobody talks about enough. AI infrastructure may be a long-term trend, but that does not mean it moves in a straight line. There will be cycles. There will be overbuilding in some areas. There will be shortages in others. There will be quarters where Wall Street acts like AI is saving humanity, followed by quarters where a slightly lower gross margin makes everyone run around like the Wi-Fi went out during the Super Bowl. This is why the goal is not to blindly buy everything with AI in the investor presentation. The goal is to understand where demand is durable, where supply is constrained, where margins are attractive, and where valuation gives you a reasonable margin of safety. In plain English, do not buy the story unless the numbers can at least pass a background check. So what is the fix? Build a framework before you build a position. Step 1. Separate the AI stack. Do not lump every company into one basket. Ask which layer it serves: compute, memory, networking, power, cooling, data centers, software, or services. Step 2. Identify the bottleneck. The best picks and shovels opportunities often appear where demand is high and supply is difficult to expand. Advanced chips, HBM, power delivery, transformers, liquid cooling, and grid access are examples investors are watching closely. Step 3. Check customer concentration. If one or two hyperscalers drive most of the demand, the upside can be huge, but the risk can also be huge. One delayed order can turn a victory lap into a walk of shame. Step 4. Respect valuation. BlackRock has noted that AI demand is expanding beyond basic chat prompts into more complex tasks requiring dramatically more computing power, with investment spreading across data centers, energy, and digital infrastructure. That supports the theme, but it does not mean every stock tied to the theme is automatically cheap. Theme plus bad price equals future regret with a ticker symbol. Step 5. Diversify your exposure. Charles Schwab describes thematic investing as investing in ideas and trends you believe in, while also warning that stock investing can be volatile and involves risk. That is the key. If you want exposure to AI infrastructure, consider whether a diversified fund, a basket of companies, or a small satellite position around a core portfolio makes more sense than betting your entire future on one stock because someone on the internet used rocket emojis. For many long-term investors, the practical approach is simple. Keep your core portfolio diversified, then use a measured satellite allocation if you want targeted exposure to AI infrastructure. That way, you participate in the trend without letting one exciting theme hijack your entire financial plan. The goal is not to predict every winner. The goal is to stay invested, manage risk, and avoid doing something dramatic every time a CEO says, "accelerated compute." Here's what you learned today. AI infrastructure is the physical foundation behind the AI boom. It includes chips, memory, networking, data centers, power systems, cooling equipment, and grid-related infrastructure. The opportunity is bigger than one famous company, but the risk is also bigger than most people admit. You learned that industry data points to massive growth in data center semiconductors and power electronics. You learned that high-density AI systems can require enormous power and advanced cooling. You learned that the picks and shovels strategy focuses on the suppliers enabling the boom, not just the companies selling the final AI products. Most importantly, you learned the framework. Identify the layer, find the bottleneck, study the business model, respect valuation, and diversify. That is how you invest like a builder instead of a gambler. Because building wealth is not about chasing every shiny headline. It is about understanding the machine behind the headline and positioning yourself with patience, discipline, and just enough humor to survive earnings season. Support the channel. If you find this video helpful, make sure to like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to help the channel grow and reach more investors who want to build smarter, calmer portfolios. Do you want a deeper dive? Get my book, The Wealth Basics, a practical guide to investing and building generational wealth, the stuff we should have learned in high school, available on Amazon. Link is in the description. If you want to see how this plays out in a real portfolio, watch the next video displayed on screen, and I'll see you in the next one.